Okay, tonight, Jennifer Cornbleet. She is here with the recent release of her second book. You've probably seen, if you're raw at all or interested in raw, I know you own or have seen her first book, Raw Food Made Easy. Everyone's got this book. Should have brought it to get signed. Here's her second book, Raw for Dessert, and I'm fasting right now and just went through this entire book, and let me tell you, it was pretty amazing. Okay, so here's her official bio. Jennifer Cornbleet is a nationally recognized raw food chef and instructor. She offers lectures, classes, hands-on workshops, and consultations nationwide. Her first book, Raw Food Made Easy, has already sold over 75,000 copies and is consistently on the Amazon.com best-selling cookbook list, uncookbook list. She's also the host of a companion DVD, Raw Food Made Easy. Her second book, Raw for Dessert, just came out. Jennifer is a faculty instructor at the Living Light Culinary Arts Institute, a raw food chef food chef school in Fort Bragg, California. She lectures extensively throughout the world. She has appeared on CBS and ABC Chicago and NBC Denver, and her recipes have been featured in the Chicago Tribune, Conscious Choice, the New York Press, and Cooking Light magazine. Tonight she's going to teach us how we can have our cake and eat it too, with her raw, vegan, gluten-free, and still delicious cakes, pies, crumbles, custards, sorbets, ice creams, cookies, and candies. Oh my God. Here's Jennifer.
Thank you for that introduction. Thanks so much for coming, everyone, to this presentation on raw dessert. And I'm really happy that all of you are here today to learn how to indulge your sweet tooth and to learn how to make some of the most delicious treats you can imagine simply by going raw for dessert. My name is Jennifer Cornbleet, and I'll just introduce myself a little bit for those of you who don't know me. I actually just moved from Chicago to California about a week and a half ago. But before then, I'd been teaching raw food classes in the Chicago area for about 9 years. And just a little bit of background on how I got interested in all of this. I had loved to cook my whole life. My dad was a really good cook. Okay, thank you. My dad was a really good cook, and he taught me how to cook at an early age. And I became a vegetarian when I was 10 years old. So I, from an early age, had an interest in how to make different fruits and vegetables and healthy foods and all that kind of thing. And then later on, when I was in college, I met a yoga instructor who introduced me to the raw food diet. And I didn't have any major health problems the way some people do who decide to change their diets, but I was really intrigued by it, and he was an example of health for me. So I decided to give it a try and see what differences I noticed. And so for a month, I decided to eat only raw foods. And I didn't really know how to be creative with it, so I just ate really simple things like fruits and salads and juices and things. And after a month of doing that, I noticed a big difference in how I felt. I lost 10 pounds, my skin cleared up, allergies went away, I was sleeping better, I had more energy. So I could really see firsthand that changing my diet to a more unprocessed natural diet could make a big difference. So I just began to incorporate it into my daily life. Not 100%, because I don't like to be really strict about things, but just as much as possible, and continue to notice a lot of benefits and really enjoy it. And then several years later, I was a high school English teacher at the time, and I had summers off, and I found out about the Living Light Culinary Arts Institute, which at that time was not in Fort Bragg. It was workshops all around Oregon and Northern California. And I went to one of their summer training programs, and that really opened my eyes to a whole new world. I discovered that not only is raw food healthy, but it can be incredibly delicious. And if you've ever tried other kinds of healthy food, if you haven't always liked the taste, you'll probably love the taste of raw foods because it's so flavorful, so creative. It's just, it can be really amazing food. I'll speak up here over the blender a little bit. So that experience changed my life, and I decided to quit my job and start teaching raw food classes full time, which is what I've been doing in the Chicago area for the past 9 years, and also at the Living Light Institute in Northern California. I'm one of the faculty instructors there. And after I'd been teaching for a few years, I decided to write my first book, Raw Food Made Easy, for 1 or 2 people, because a common concern a lot of my students had is that if they wanted to eat raw foods on a regular basis, they needed it to be a lot easier. And there's a lot of wonderful raw food recipe books out there, but they're not always easy. Sometimes you've got sprouting and fermenting and dehydrating and fancy equipment, exotic ingredients. It can be kind of overwhelming. So my goal in Raw Food Made Easy was to make every recipe take under 30 minutes from start to finish. No fancy equipment, no exotic ingredients. I also made the book for 1 or 2 people because a lot of recipe books make 4, 6, 8 servings, and then you've got leftovers you don't necessarily need, and it takes more time and money too to make extra food. So that's part of making it really quick and easy. So that's a little bit about me and my first book. And I want to just tell you what inspired me to write Raw for Dessert, this book that just came out, is over the past few years, I've been eating at some of the different raw food restaurants around, including Cafe Gratitude, and I have a sweet tooth. I always love dessert and order dessert and miss traditional cooked dessert sometimes, and sometimes indulge in them. And I noticed at a lot of the raw food restaurants, including here, that I was seeing some amazing raw desserts pop up, just really over the past few years. That before that, I mean, you'd be lucky if you would get like a date almond ball or something like that. But now these desserts are really, you know, like 5-star gourmet desserts, rivaling what you would find in a traditional, really elegant restaurant, and I think taste a lot better a lot of the time. So I was really intrigued, and so I was thinking about, well, could these desserts be made at home? Could they be easy enough that you could actually make them at home? Hi, could you keep it down just a little bit? I'm just having trouble talking over you, thank you. Okay, so I'm noticing that a lot of these elegant desserts, and I was starting to say, could we make these at home? Would they be really complicated, or could home chefs make these too? So that was one of my goals in writing Raw for Dessert, is to still make them taste that good and really cover a spectrum of all your different kinds of favorite desserts, as Shea Lynn mentioned, cakes, cookies, pies, tarts, ice creams, sundaes, candies, all of that, but simplify it so that anybody could do this. And the good news is, yes, anybody can do this. It's really, really easy, and I'm very excited to share all the techniques with you. And all your favorite treats really can be made with little more than a few basic staples and very basic kitchen equipment. So what we're going to do in today's presentation is I want to take you through a culinary tour of the world of raw desserts, and I think of it as a magical world because you don't need to be a pastry chef or you know, a master chef or anything like that in order to make these desserts taste really amazing. They're actually easier than traditional baked desserts, but they taste just as good, if not better. So I want to take you on a tour of some of the different kinds of techniques and go through the different kinds of desserts that you can make raw. I'm not going to be doing a demo at the end of this because just the logistics of this space make it hard to do a demo, but there's a lot of desserts here. So if you want to order any, I've had most of them, and I'd be happy to tell you some of my favorites on the menu here. So, okay, so let's get started. I'm going to be referring to a couple of different recipes in the book. So what I'm going to do is hand out a few copies just so you can look at it. Try not to get stuff on it. If you end up not getting one, just bring it back up to the front. But if you would like to have one at the end, they are $15, and I'd be happy to sign one for you. So I'm just going to pass some of these along because as I go through, I'll be referring to a few different recipes and pictures. Thank you. Just pass these along. So I'm going to get started. So the first thing I want to talk about are some of the reasons for eating raw dessert. Why would you want to make the switch to raw desserts from conventional desserts? And I know a lot of you may already be into raw foods, but I still like to talk about some of these things because it's things that might help you, but you can also share it with other people and encourage them to try some of these treats instead of conventional desserts. So one reason is that a lot of people these days are trying to avoid certain ingredients, like white flour, white sugar, dairy products, saturated fat, wheat, and raw desserts, gluten. Raw desserts are free of all of that. So you don't need to wonder, is it dairy-free, is it gluten-free, does it have sugar, butter, whatever. It's automatically going to be free of all that. So if you bring a raw dessert to a party or friend's birthday party or something like that, people are going to be so happy to find desserts that don't have these